In Australia, two foreign tourists, Greg and Heather, arrive at a pier. Their plan is to go on a cage diving tour, where people sit inside a metal cage underwater and swim near sharks. At that moment, a vendor named Dave stops them and warns. On the last trip, a shark bit off a college boy's thigh. But Greg and Heather think he's joking and start laughing. Just then, the tour guide Tucker arrives. He asks them a few questions and finds out that no one knows Greg and Heather have come here. Tucker laughs and teases them about it. After a while, the group gets on the boat. On the way, Tucker starts telling exciting and scary shark stories, how he's been swimming with sharks since childhood, and the big scar on his body is proof of that. When they reach the right spot, Tucker starts throwing chum, meat used to attract sharks, into the water. Heather gets very scared. Suddenly, a shark's fin appears on the surface, and she screams in fear. She tells Tucker that she doesn't want to do this anymore. Tucker tries to calm her down. He says, "Focus on your breathing." But a few seconds later, he starts singing the Baby Shark song. Heather is shocked at first, then starts laughing, and her fear goes down a little. Now Greg and Heather get into the cage, and Tucker slowly lowers them into the water. There are sharks all around them. Heather starts panicking, but Greg holds her hand and comforts her. Slowly, both of them start enjoying the beautiful yet dangerous view. After some time, both come back up to the boat. Heather happily thanks Tucker, but suddenly Tucker pulls out a knife and stabs Greg in the stomach without warning. Heather screams, but Tucker throws Greg's body into the sea and keeps laughing. The next day, an American surfer girl named Zephyr is surfing on the waves near the beach. Later, she goes to a grocery store where a man named Moses asks the clerk for jumper cables, but they're out of stock. He turns to Zephyr and asks if she has some, but Zephyr lies and says no. Zephyr only buys a cheap Slurpee drink and walks out, but in truth she has hidden an ice cream tub inside that cup and stolen it. As she walks toward her van, Moses comes up behind her and says, "Give me a ride or I'll tell the shopkeeper you stole something." Helplessly, Zephyr lets him get in the van. All through the ride, Moses keeps talking, which annoys Zephyr, and she tells him to be quiet. When they reach his car, Zephyr notices that there are surfboards inside it. They start talking about surfing, and slowly, Zephyr begins to think Moses isn't such a bad person. Moses also admits that even if she hadn't given him a lift, he wouldn't have told anyone about her theft. Zephyr helps him jumpstart his car using her van. When the radio turns on, they realize they like the same kind of music. At night, both of them get very close inside Zephyr's van. Jokingly, Moses throws her fin key out the window. A while later, they keep talking, trying to know each other better, but when Moses wakes up in the morning and goes inside the house to make breakfast, he comes back outside and sees that Zephyr's van is gone. Meanwhile, Zephyr has already reached the beach and is getting ready to surf. But she suddenly remembers that she forgot to take her fine key. She looks around in a nearby truck to find one, and suddenly the truck's owner Tucker appears. Tucker smiles and hands her an extra key, saying, "Brave girls like you aren't afraid to surf at night." After Tucker leaves, Zephyr gets a message from Moses. "Why did you leave me?" Zephyr replies that she wanted to catch the morning waves. Moses tells her to come back, but Zephyr feels a bit hesitant. At that moment, Tucker comes from behind and suddenly puts a bag over her head. Zephyr struggles and kicks hard, but Tucker holds her tight until she passes out. He gives her an injection, throws her in the back of his truck, tapes her mouth, and hides her inside a surfboard case. At night, he carries her to his boat. Dave's dog keeps barking at Tucker. Tucker lifts Zephyr onto the boat, throws her inside, and locks the door. Hours later, Moses reaches the same place looking for Zephyr, but finds only her van. He goes to the police and says that Zephyr's van is her home, so this is serious. But when the police ask for Zephyr's full name, Moses can't tell them, so they don't file a report. Meanwhile, Zephyr wakes up and she finds herself in a small room, handcuffed, and beside her is Heather. There's only one bucket in the corner, for the toilet. Zephyr screams for help, but Tucker sits downstairs enjoying his breakfast while listening to her cries. On the wall, Zephyr sees another girl's name scratched in, showing that Tucker has kidnapped other women before. Zephyr tries to open the door, but there's nothing around to help her. Heather starts crying and says she'll never see her mom again. She regrets not listening to her. Her mom had told her not to take a gap year. Zephyr tells Heather that she grew up in foster homes, and she came to Australia to start a new life. But now look what's happened. She says she even had to spend some time in juvie, the juvenile jail. The atmosphere becomes a bit heavy, so Zephyr cracks a joke to lighten the mood. Heather laughs. Then Zephyr notices Heather's bikini top. It has a thin metal underwire inside it. Zephyr quickly says, "Give me that." Heather takes off her top and throws it to her. Zephyr carefully pulls the wire out. Now she finally has something that could unlock the handcuffs. Before Zephyr can use the wire to pick the lock, Tucker enters the room. He gives both of them sandwiches and water, then sits next to Zephyr and starts talking about predators of the ocean. Slowly, he leans closer to her, and then touches her sweat with his finger and licks it. Zephyr pulls back in disgust. Tucker just smiles and walks out of the room. As soon as he leaves, Zephyr throws the bikini top back to Heather and starts picking the lock with the wire, but after a few minutes she starts feeling dizzy. Her hands begin to shake. The wire slips from her fingers. Then Heather's eyes begin to flutter too, and she passes out. Zephyr realizes Tucker had drugged the water. Tucker comes back, picks up the wire, and leaves with it. Zephyr's eyes slowly close as she loses consciousness. When Zephyr wakes up again, she is now tied to a chair on the boat's deck. Tucker is setting up cameras and lights. On the other side, Heather is chained to a heavy crane. Tucker smiles and says, "God isn't up there in the sky, he's down there in the depths of the sea." He looks at Zephyr and says he had seen her surfing before. "There's life's wave inside you, something sacred, and I feel the same way when I do this." His voice is calm but filled with mad obsession. Then Tucker cuts a lock of Heather's hair and wakes her up. Heather starts trembling in fear. Tucker softly praises the sharks. "People say sharks are monsters, but they're just part of nature." He turns on the crane's switch, and Heather's body slowly lifts up above the water. Tucker switches on the camera and smiles, saying, "Now the real show begins." He slowly lowers Heather, half her body in the water, half above it. Heather screams loudly, but within seconds, sharks rise from below and tear her apart. Zephyr screams in horror, but can't do anything. Tucker turns the camera toward her and says, "This is the best show in the world." Later, Zephyr is thrown back into the room. She carves her and Heather's names on the wall. Then she notices a section of the wall looks freshly painted. She scratches it with her finger. And underneath, she finds dozens of names carved there. Names of all the women who were probably Tucker's victims before. Meanwhile, Tucker is in the dining room, drinking and dancing, celebrating the thrill of his hunt. He puts a videotape labeled with Heather's name into a box, along with her lock of hair, and places it in a cabinet already filled with hundreds of similar tapes. Then he picks up a new tape and writes the name Zephyr on it. Deep in the ocean, Heather's body is still floating. The next morning, Moses tries to surf, but his mind is full of worry about Zephyr. Near the rocks, he finds a broken surfboard and starts thinking, could Zephyr have met with an accident? At the same time, Tucker brings breakfast to Zephyr. Zephyr kicks the tray and yells at him. Tucker calmly says, "I'm not doing anything wrong. Sharks are part of this world too. They also have the right to eat." Zephyr mocks him. "You think you're a hunter, but you're just a bug." Tucker's face burns with anger, and he storms out of the room. Zephyr notices that the bucket handle in the room is made of metal. She breaks it off and keeps it. In the evening, Tucker is drinking and watching his old tapes. Then he fills a syringe with a new sedative drug and walks towards Zephyr's room, as he bends down to inject her. Zephyr suddenly stabs his neck with the broken bucket handle. Tucker falls backward, his head hits the bed frame, and he passes out for a few moments. Zephyr quickly grabs his keys and frees herself, but Tucker wakes up again and tries to grab her. Zephyr runs toward the door to lock him in, but Tucker catches her from behind. She fights him off, runs down the stairs. Tucker chases her, grabs her leg, and injects her with the drug. Zephyr kicks him hard. Tucker falls back and she reaches the control room. She uses the radio to call for help, but there's no response. Then she sees a huge cruise ship out on the sea. She runs to the deck and screams for help. But the ship's music is too loud. No one can hear her. Just then, Tucker appears, holding a knife. Zephyr quickly grabs the camera and throws it into the sea. Tucker yells in rage, and at that moment, Zephyr dives into the ocean. She swims as fast as she can, but the drug starts to take effect. Her vision blurs, and she begins to sink unconscious. Tucker is forced to dive in and drag her back to the boat. The next day, the police finally start searching for Zephyr. Moses stands on the shore watching everything. Then an idea strikes him. He opens an app called Wave Watch, which shows live beach footage for surfers. He checks the footage from that night and sees a truck driving away near Zephyr's van. He zooms in. The truck says Tucker Experience. Moses quickly searches for that company online. Meanwhile, Tucker stops at the pier to pick up some supplies, leaving the boat. Zephyr wakes up in her room and tries to make sounds for help even though her mouth is taped shut. At the same time, Moses finds a phone number on the company's website and calls the boat, but Tucker isn't there, so he leaves a voicemail message. Tucker goes to a supermarket, buys a new camera, and gets stuck in traffic on the way back. While looking out the window, he spots a beautiful tourist woman. That same predatory look returns to his eyes. Meanwhile, Moses reaches the address listed on the website -- the same pier where Tucker's boat is docked. He bangs on the door loudly, but no one answers. As he's about to leave, he hears a faint sound coming from under the floor. He immediately breaks the glass and climbs inside. With a hook in his hand, Moses runs inside the boat, following the sound. He hears Zephyr's voice, and finally, he finds her in a room. As soon as he removes the tape from her mouth, Zephyr tells him to call the police and starts looking for something to unlock the handcuffs. Moses goes upstairs and calls 911, but just then, Tucker comes from behind and knocks him down. Moses fights back, but Tucker is much stronger. The phone slips from Moses' hand, and as Moses shouts, "Help!" Tucker stabs him in the stomach with the hook. Then he kicks his face and throws the phone away. Barely standing, Moses picks up a bag and throws it at Tucker's face, then tries to choke him with the hook. But suddenly, Dave comes from behind, thinking Moses is the intruder, and hits him on the head. When Dave hears Zephyr's voice and moves toward her, Tucker sneaks up behind and stabs him in the head with the hook. The dog keeps barking, and Tucker growls to scare it away. Then he shuts the door and drives the boat toward a deserted island called Hangman's Skulls. After a while, Moses regains consciousness. He's now tied to a bed, and Zephyr sits nearby, handcuffed. Moses asks her why she ran away that day when things happened between them. Zephyr says she just got scared of the waves, but Moses realizes the truth, that she hates herself and is afraid of being in a relationship. He comforts her and says he likes her just the way she is. Suddenly, the boat stops. Tucker walks into the room and knocks Moses out again. Now Moses is tied to the deck, with Dave's dead body lying beside him. Zephyr is strapped to a chair and begs Tucker for mercy, but he ignores her. Tucker starts operating the crane, slowly lowering Moses toward the water, where sharks are swimming below. Zephyr tells Tucker to let her go instead, but Tucker laughs and drops Moses into the water. Zephyr screams at him not to move. As soon as Moses stays still, the sharks lose interest and swim away. Angry, Tucker pulls Moses back up and stabs him several times with a knife. His blood spills into the water and the sharks come back. At that moment, a helicopter appears in the sky. It's searching for Zephyr. Tucker quickly locks both of them back inside the room. Zephyr fears that Moses will die, so she makes a crazy decision. She dislocates her thumb to try and slip out of the handcuff, but as she's struggling, Tucker enters the room, places food down, and says, "You're a shark, just like me." After Tucker leaves, Zephyr keeps trying to free herself, but her thumb is still stuck. Then she makes one last desperate attempt. She bites off her own thumb. That night, when Tucker returns to the room, the bed is empty, and Zephyr's severed thumb lies on the pillow. Just then, Zephyr comes from behind, locks the door, and runs to the control room. She starts the boat, but Tucker escapes through the emergency hatch below and cuts the power. Zephyr sees a nearby island where a party is happening. She searches for a flare gun, but Tucker reaches her and Zephyr shoots the flare straight at him, then runs away. She locks herself in the kitchen and tries to climb out through the window, but her harness gets stuck and Tucker breaks in, pulling her down. Both of them slip. Zephyr grabs a frying pan, Tucker has a knife. Zephyr stabs the knife into his hand and hits him on the head with the pan. Tucker falls down and Zephyr runs. Tucker rushes to the deck and turns on the lights. Zephyr is swimming toward the island. He picks up a harpoon and aims, but he can't see her. Tucker gets into his speedboat and follows her. When Zephyr reaches the shore, he attacks her and knocks her unconscious. Then Tucker takes Zephyr back to the boat and hangs her up. Moses is tied to a chair. Tucker throws water on him to wake him up and says, "Some fish fight when you catch them. That's what I like." Sharks come close because of Zephyr's blood. Tucker turns on the camera and starts lowering Zephyr into the water. When a shark comes near, Zephyr kicks it away. Tucker angrily tries to stab the shark with his hook, but the shark grabs the hook and swims off. Zephyr grabs that moment, takes the hook, and starts pulling herself up. Tucker growls to scare her. Zephyr slips and falls back into the water. A shark appears in front of her, stares for a few seconds, then recognizes her because of the wound Tucker gave it, and swims away without attacking. Zephyr climbs back onto the boat, grabs the harpoon, and shoots Tucker. He falls straight into the water. Then the same big shark returns and swallows Tucker whole, while the camera records everything. But Zephyr still holds the harpoon rope and gets pulled underwater. She lets go and swims back up. She grabs the flare gun, fires it into the sky, and screams for help. From the island, a ship's horn sounds. Help is coming. Zephyr runs to Moses, who's lying unconscious. Crying, she says, "Please wake up. You're my everything." Slowly, Moses opens his eyes, smiles, and says, "I knew it." So friends, I hope you liked this video. If you liked the video, then like, share, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video. Till then, bye.